Assalamu alaikum. Now we move to another topic. So the topic is anonymous function. It is very, very useful, and also uh, if you have idea of a Flutter, okay. So there is also anonymous function is very useful thing. So first of all, I just want to talk about the anonymous function. So the anonymous function is a function that does not have a name and is usually used only once. Okay, remember, it's used only once upon passing is a value to another function. Okay, first of all, the anonymous function have not any return type in name. Okay, but the bigger question in your mind is coming that how we call it, how we call this function. Okay, first of all, I'm just write a syntax of the anonymous function. So here the parameter list that we passed into this function. So here this is a block of code which returns a value. Okay, returns or something you what you want. Okay, and also you can use, instead of this, you can use equal in uh, this greater than sign. Okay, it is called arrow function, so you can use this. Okay, if you don't use this, you can use also this curly braces, but remember here you can write statement. Okay, and also return. Okay, so now uh, this is a um, syntax of this anonymous function. So first of all, I want to show you that how we use this anonymous function. So I'm just writing this function in a variable. Okay, so first of all, I'm just start to the syntax of this function. So first of all, I write this function syntax. Okay, here I just want to write num1 and num2. Okay, this num1 and num2 is return. Okay, num1 I'm take this for your learning. um, I take this question. Okay, so it returns a square of number. Okay, so here you can see I just write here this. Okay, it, you can see how it call. Okay, so there is a two method of that we call the anonymous function. The first one is we just save this function in variable. Okay, function. Okay, so I used function here. So I just save this function in the variable function. Okay, so this function is not a variable. Remember, this is a type of the function. If I write here, this will return the integer. Here you can see this return integer, and if I write here function, okay, function, then the integer 1 and also integer 2. So here you can see it working. Okay, so I'm just right here front that this function. Okay, because it returns integer, so I'm just right here function name. Okay, so here you can see I front this function, but here is a two argument for this that I force it. Okay, so the first one is 12, so the second is 12. Okay, if I run it, I will show that how it's working. So here you can see if I run this program, And here you can see 144 is fronted. Okay, so this is a first method that we call the anonymous function. Okay, also uh, you can use this function as a parameter, or you force this function to another function. For example, if I write here an void function, and the function name is function. Okay, so here it take a parameter integer. If I write here number, okay, and here uh, I just want to pass here the function. Okay, so if I write here function, okay, and I will define it that it takes two parameter. The number one is integer and the second one is also integer. Okay, and the function name will be the operation, or I just write for your clarification addition. Okay, and this function returns integer. Okay, so i I just want to uh, explain from a second time. So here you can see it returns, this function returns void. Remember, void means nothing. Okay, and this function take parameters. The one parameter is integer and the second parameter is function that returns integer. Okay, so if I write here, the if I call this function addition, for example, I want to call this, okay, addition. Okay, remember, it takes a two integer. Here you can see two positional argument expected. Okay, it takes a two arguments. We call this function. Okay, this function, when we call a function, we pass argument to parameter. Okay, first I write here 20, I write 10, and the second is also 10. Here you can see this is called. Okay, so now I remove this one, and you can see if I write here front. Okay, so front, we cannot uh, front uh, avoid function, but I just called it. Okay, function. Okay, so here you can see the first thing, this take a parameter, is the name is integer type. Okay, if I write here 12, and this one is take in function. Okay, now I first is the argument the one function, so it takes a two integers. Okay, so if I write here the addition, sorry, function, I just want to write this function here. Okay, if I write here, I just want to, so this first one is num1, second one is num2. Okay, here I just want to use arrow function. Okay, it num1, okay, num2. Here you can see I just write here var function. Okay, so I just pass this function as an argument here. Okay, so I write function now here, so it's a dynamic, because if I write here integer and the second one is also integer, so here you can see the error was going. Okay, so the first one, I just want to tell you, this is a function. Okay, that I pass as an argument to this function. Okay, it accept a function is a parameter. Okay, and when I call this function, okay, so here it wants a two integer values. You can see here I define it. Okay, I define also it. Okay, if I want to front it, okay, so I write this here front. Okay, because it uh, it returns a number. Here you can see it returns a integer. Okay, so so 10 is multiplied by 10. Here you can see the answer will be, here you can see the answer will be 100. Okay, so this is very useful thing and also very useful in Flutter. So remember that anonymous function is we write without the return type in the name, so it is called anonymous function. Okay, but uh, how to use and when to use? Okay, you can use it used only once, and you can the another method you can use this. You can false is an argument this anonymous function. Okay, so it will be called. So these are two methods. The first one we can use for var. Okay, so we just also I write here integer function. Okay, so the function, the first one is integer and the second one is also integer. So this is we store this variable as a function. Okay, we store this as a function, so it is very useful. So the another method is we just call this function and we first is argument this function, so we can call this anonymous function. Okay, so this is very useful. I hope you will understand this. um, you will understand this lecture. For now it's enough, and I will see you in the next video. Allah Hafiz.